point and say at this moment it was definitely over. It was now canonized. When Constantine wanted 50 copies and was willing to finance 50 parchment copies of the complete Bible. Now that would be a very big book and very expensive. Nobody was going to say to Constantine, well, we haven't totally finished deciding what's in and what's out. At that moment, it was very clear. When the emperor was ordering and the emperor was paying, the canon was closed.
The Bible, now with 2 testaments, both Old and New, is finally sealed and begins its passage to the modern world. In the late 1800s, fragments of an ancient Hebrew manuscript were discovered in the storage room of this synagogue in the old quarter of Cairo. They were found to be the original writings of a scribe by the name of Simeon ben Sirah, who lived in Jerusalem in the 2nd century BCE. The manuscript was a lengthy work known as the Wisdom of Ben Sirah, a series of moral and ethical discussions, proverbs, and psalms. It was originally included among the books contained in the Greek translation of the Bible, but later dropped from the canonized version of the Hebrew Bible. Even to this day, the Wisdom of Ben Sirah still appears in the Old Testament, but in Roman Catholic editions of the Bible only.
Whoever finds wisdom is great indeed, but not greater than the one who fears the Lord. Fear of the Lord surpasses all else. Its possessor is beyond all compare. Wisdom of Ben Sirah, 25:10.
The finding of the Ben Sirah fragment was a great event in biblical research. Scholars were enthralled with the texts. Few hoped or expected that anything to equal them would ever be discovered. However, some argued that there should surely be more lost and forgotten works hidden in undiscovered places somewhere in the vastness of the Middle East. The desert is the great custodian of the past, its dry heat a safeguard against the ravages of time. And in December of 1945, along the banks of the Nile at a place called Nag Hammadi, the sands would give up one of their most jealously guarded treasures. Housed today in Cairo's Coptic Museum, the now legendary Nag Hammadi Library is a series of 13 fragile handwritten documents dating back some 1,500 years. It is a unique prize from the ancient world. The well-preserved leather-bound papyrus manuscripts came from the early days of Christianity. They were produced by scribes belonging to a secret religious sect known as the Gnostics.
I will teach you when the time of dissolution will come. The first power of the darkness will come upon you. Do not be afraid and say, behold, the time has come. The Book of the Dialogue of the Savior, verse 122.
Living in seclusion in a monastery somewhere among these forbidding cliffs, the Gnostics adhered to an ascetic and disciplined lifestyle. Though essentially Christian, their beliefs fundamentally differed from the more popular form of Christianity practiced at the time. After the Emperor Constantine embraces Christianity, any form of religious practice that deviates from his own is branded heretical, and the Gnostics now find their Spartan sect in peril. They probably established their monastery at remote Nag Hammadi as a refuge from possible persecution.
Gnosticism was in many cases suppressed, repressed, or Gnostics were not allowed to practice their faith openly. So many of their books simply disappeared from the face of the earth until the discovery of the Nag Hammadi library.
Discovered by local villagers, the library had been hidden inside a heavy pottery jar, buried beneath a boulder on the slopes of this cliff. The manuscripts were sold locally, then found their way to Cairo and eventually were made known to the world. The writings are in Coptic, a combination of Egyptian and Greek. They are some of the earliest Christian writings ever discovered. After deciphering, the texts yielded their secrets. One of the most exciting discoveries was a previously unknown gospel written by Thomas, reportedly one of the 12 disciples of Jesus.
Jesus said, "Blessed are those who are alone and chosen, for you will find the kingdom, for you have come from it, and you will return there again." Gospel of Thomas, saying 49.
Many regard the book to be equal in stature to the 4 Gospels canonized in the New Testament. About 20% of the sayings recorded in it match those found in the other Gospels, indicating that the author had intimate knowledge of Jesus.
Jesus said, "Seek, and you will find. In the past I did not tell you the things about which you asked me. Now I am willing to tell them, but you are not seeking them." Gospel of Thomas, saying 92. He said to them, "Whoever has ears should hear. There is light within a person of light, and it shines on the whole world." Gospel of Thomas, saying 24. Jesus said, "Often you have desired to hear these sayings that I am speaking to you, and you have no one else from whom to hear them. There will be days when you will seek me, and you will not find me." Gospel of Thomas, saying 38.
A graphic way of illustrating the difference between the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is that there is no organization of the sayings. Any one of them should be enough. Scholars count them at 114. But basically, Jesus said, or they said to Jesus, Jesus said. Jesus is in effect a talking head. There is no action, there's no miracles, there's no passion, there's no birth story, there's no resurrection. It is the living Jesus speaking as wisdom.
None of the Nag Hammadi manuscripts themselves were finally included in the New Testament canon. Scholars believe this is because the Gnostics were in hiding from persecution by those following a more conventional path of Christianity. So, the history of the manuscripts remains enveloped in mystery.
We don't really know who buried the books. We don't quite know why. We don't know who collected these sub-libraries into the 13-book library. We don't know who the scribes were who made our Coptic copies. We don't know who commissioned the scribes, paid the scribes. We don't quite know why they said, do this one, but not that one to the scribe. As a matter of fact, in one of the codices, there's a little scribal note. I don't quite know whether you want me to copy this one or not. We don't know who translated them from Greek into Coptic, much less who wrote the things.
Are there still other books like the Gospel of Thomas waiting to be found? And if we do find them, will they be incorporated into the existing biblical canon? We can but guess. Long before the world could take possession of the Holy Book, the prevailing texts had to undergo a lengthy process of translation. When